You're looking at a 6-cylinder gasoline fuel-injected engine out of a 1970 280 SE. And what I just did was install a new crank seal. Now, crank seals in diesels are very prone to leak because of the high internal pressures that build up in the crankcase. But these old gas engines, we're finding a lot of these, whether it's a 250SL, 280SL, 220 SE. These old gas engine seals are leaking. Look at this one here. You can see how long it's been leaking. They don't leak as badly as the diesel seals, but when they leak, they just get all gooey around the front, and they're going to leave some drips on your garage floor. And since coming up with this new kit for the diesel engines, I've had a lot of requests for getting a seal kit for these early 6-cylinder gas engines. Most of these are the 1960s up to through the early 70s. And what's interesting is the tools we developed to press the seal into the diesel engine are almost the same. Now, we had to change the depth of the press tool, but the diameter of the guide for the seal is the same. The race diameter on these is the same. The width is different. The seals are a little bit smaller in diameter than the diesels, but the whole principle is the same. So I know if you're out there, you got one of these old 6-cylinder gas engines, whether it be fuel injected or carbureted, get out of the car and take a good look in here. If it looks like this, you probably need to replace that front crank seal. I know I'm going to have to do it in my 280SL. I just haven't gotten around to it. It's one of those things way down on the list. These guide tools that I came up with help to install the seal to make certain that the lip does not roll back on the race. Take a look at this picture. This is what happens if you try to just drive it in with a big socket. It will also guarantee that the spring on the backside does not pop off, which happens quite a bit, I believe, but people never know it, because if you drive this seal into the engine and you're not careful, like for instance, use a block of wood and a big socket and a hammer, that spring pops off the backside. You'll never know it. You will never know it. And pretty soon the seal will start leaking. You say, well, that didn't last very long. So I've got a kit now for the 6-cylinder gas engines. For those of you who need to replace your seal, just check it out. You're going to be really impressed at how easy to watch here as I just earlier installed this seal into this 6-cylinder gas engine and see how easy it was. And we'll go ahead and run this in finger tight. And once it's finger tight, we'll go ahead and center the press tool and the washers. You can imagine the problems that are created if you try to hammer that seal in with a big socket. You'll sometimes read about that or see a video somebody's using a socket and they're driving the seal on. That is very risky because in all likelihood you could pop that spring off the backside. You'd never know it. You're going to bring the seal down until that big metal washer just bottoms out on the surface of the block, and you'll feel it. And then we can reverse. Now, the nice thing about this is you can rest assured you've not rolled a lip on that seal, nor have you popped that spring off the back side. Look at how nice and straight that has been installed. Then you can take the guide, pull the guide off, and now, look at that. Look at how slick that was and how easy. And when I say safe, I mean, you know that this is installed properly. So with these special tools provided in my kit, I guess we can say that was a piece of cake. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, Kent, that was pretty easy with the engine sitting on the floor in your shop. And I have to agree with that. You know, it's a lot harder with the engine in the car. You have to remove all this stuff and get the radiator out to do this job successfully. And then there's another comment I want to make, because I know some of you are either thinking this or someone's going to say this. Kent, why didn't you clean the whole engine? Well, it's pretty dirty still, all right, and I agree. But you got to remember, I'm just doing this for the purpose of this video. I'm sure you can understand that I didn't want to take the time to clean the whole engine here in the back of my shop just for the purposes of showing how slick it is to install a new seal in these old 6-cylinder gas engines.